Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Anson and Paul's Big Movie Podcast. I'm Anson Chan.
And I'm Paul Morgan.
And today we are reviewing two Lars von Trier movies.
In fact, the first two movies in the Depression series by Lars von Trier.
Oh.
Antichrist and Melancholia.
Depression is right. Well, Paul, what should we start with first?
I think I probably have less to say about Melancholia.
I think so too. Can I give the synopsis?
So, yeah, let's start that one out.
Melancholia is the 2011 film directed by Lars von Trier, starring Kirsten Dunce, Charlotte Gainsbourg, 24, Matt Bauer, and others. Melancholia is about the hero of time as he attempts to stop the moon from crashing down on Hyrule Field. Along the way, he meets a happy mask salesman, and hilarity ensues. How's that for a synopsis, Paul?
Close enough for me.
Close enough. I guess I'll do a real synopsis. Melancholia, starring Kirsten Dunce, is about a very self-destructive girl who's depressed and doesn't really believe in much, doesn't believe in love, life, or anything else, really.
She's got super depression.
Yeah, it could kind of be taken as a depiction of, in a weird, symbolic way, what life is like for perhaps a real nihilist, where if nothing mattered, then even the idea of another planet coming to destroy your own planet really doesn't mean much at the end of the day. Is that fair enough to say? And then seeing the reactions of the family around her as they have to come to grips with that reality of nothing really matters, or life as they know it is going to cease, as perhaps experienced by one who really doesn't give a shit. Right.
Yeah, one who really doesn't give a shit and one who really does.
Yeah.
Charlotte Gainsbourg kind of... I mean, they try to show both of their perspectives, and Charlotte Gainsbourg kind of has a freak out, like an existential crisis near the end.
So does Jack Bauer. He can fight terrorism, but he can't fight the moon.
That's right.
Or should I say Melancholia?
So, what about that movie worked for you?
Oh, good Lord. I am so... You should start, man, because it's going to take me a hot minute. What worked for you, Paul?
Well, it was kind of a tricky movie. Lars von Trier movies are always kind of airy and kind of, they like to work with the space in between the words and in between the images and stuff like that. So, it's, there's not really a lot that's said in this movie. But I kind of chalked Kirsten or however you say it, Dunst's character's behaviors and stuff up to depression. To me, a lot of the behaviors and ways of acting that she exhibited were kind of like they're like hardcore versions of like when I have a depressive episode. And so I kind of was like, oh, she's just depressed and, it's really severe. And out of that, she gets this kind of false notion that no one around her matters and life is worthless. And the rituals we go through in life are meaningless and stuff like that. And like you kind of mentioned, I think she dips her toe into the pool of nihilism there. I really appreciated that they showed that. They kind of showed the feely side of depression, essentially. Like, I think the wedding scene took like 40 minutes or something like that.
I think it's like half the movie.
And like most of the wedding, here's the split that I'll give her character. About half her wedding behaviors exhibited were like, I can't do this. This is meaningless. This is worthless. So therefore, I'm going to go distract myself with other things. And half of her behaviors were like, I'm an inconsiderate asshole who, doesn't really like people a lot. And so I really appreciated the parts that were like, I can't do this. This is terrifying. I've got to distract myself. I didn't necessarily jive with the parts that were like, I'm just an inconsiderate asshole. I have to kind of do whatever I want, regardless of how it impacts other people. I liked the way they portrayed her family's kind of fucked up relationship. I tend not to think that Kiefer Sutherland is a too great of an actor, but I thought he serviced this role very well. I thought Charlotte Gainsbourg did a good job because she's just a really good actor in general. I liked the music a lot, and I also liked the aspect of the planet approaching them, the little chest circle thingy. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think a lot of movies about depression don't really they kind of dramatize depression a lot. And this movie felt like it was just kind of heightening the symptoms that people go through. I don't know, like not wanting to do stuff, feeling apathetic, feeling useless, feeling worthless, feeling like people don't like you, feeling like you want to burn your bridges, which Kirsten Dunce does at one point in this movie pretty extremely. I thought it was really good at depicting stuff like that. And, the cinematography was, I'm not going to say it all the way through, but at times the cinematography was gorgeous. Especially when they're showing the other planet in the sky. I guess the last thing, because I don't really have that much to say about this movie, the last thing is that sequence at the beginning of the movie where they show the planet finishing its collision course orbit. I thought that was really, really cool looking. Now, what about you? What worked for you in this one?
I'll start with the obvious. I liked the Melancholia in the sky.
Oh, gorgeous! Yeah,
The
great
way it
stuff.
looked was very pretty. It reminds me of a street art painting that used to be in my room as a kid. We got it done, or we saw someone doing this like spray paint art in Las Vegas as a kid, and that blue planet in the sky looks super like that painting that was hanging in my room. So
Yeah,
foreshadowing Anne's future Melancholia, you be the judge.
right.
But I thought it was very pretty. Um, I like the performance of Jack Bauer. When I hear his voice, he has a lot of like vocal range, I guess, because there's not a lot of real acting in this movie because everyone's very like subdued really with their actions because they're all supposed to be British and tight and like putting on that
Yeah,
like outer face of like calmness, but their voice kind of like indicates their inward annoyance or uncertainty or unsettledness or
yeah.
anger, frustration, whatever it may be. And I think Jack Bauer has a really good range with that. When I hear his voice, it reminds me of Metal Gear because he's the last Metal Gear, the final Metal Gear, because he was the voice of Snake or Venom
Oh,
Snake.
cool.
And so when I hear him talk, I'm just like, oh, Snake, stop. So it amuses me. It
Yeah.
makes me
Go beat up
smile.
your workers on your boat.
Yes, do it.
Go raise the morale a little bit.
Go kidnap them to your offshore base, and they
Yep.
will love you for it and join your cause for
Use
no
your
pay.
black hole transport.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Yep. I thought Kirsten Dunce, her boobs are great. You see a lot of full frontal boobies. Did not know Kirsten Dunst had such a nice, lovely pair of tatas. I might have to edit that. But yeah, Kirsten Dunce's full frontal nudity was a plus, I guess, in a very otherwise really depressing movie. But you can see her nice boobies at least. Everyone being really weird, kind of like realistic depictions of like the worst part of their character, kind of was
Yeah.
done well, I should say. Overbearing mom or grandma, whatever she is, whoever she is.
That was her mom.
Mom,
I
yeah.
know because I looked that up.
Okay. Overbearing mom, kind of like not really their dad from another marriage, I guess. Probably her real dad. I'm not sure how that works because it's like she had two dads and two moms, right?
What?
There
No, the
was
old
that.
guy with the mustache was her dad, and the lady who spoke up when her dad gave a speech was her mom.
Okay, but who's 24 Jack Bauer?
That's her sister's husband, the guy who owned the house that they were having the wedding at.
Okay. I was actually confused. I didn't
Okay.
know. Because she's living there and he's taking care of her. I thought it was like a father figure kind of thing. I didn't know it was like
Well, no, like, so she goes there for the wedding reception because they agreed to have it there. And then after that, she goes to live with them when she's like catatonic.
I see.
Yeah.
I thought the depictions of depression were pretty unbearable in a good way, I guess. I mean,
So, like, well done.
Yeah, my viewing experience with this movie was just fucking dismal. But I think that was a really fair portrayal of.
I should not have watched both these movies within a 12-hour period, that's for sure.
I never should have watched these movies in a 10 or 100 year span. But I thought that was pretty interestingly done. In the way of story, there's not a lot going on here. It's more of just like depicting an emotional state or how
it's
one
like feelings
lives.
kind of stuff.
Yeah. And like for me to watch, I don't want to see that. And I don't want to be reminded of it because it kind of is like looking into a mirror, if you will, or something that you don't want to be reminded of in like depressing aspects about your own day to day, or like even your own like how you process things.
That makes sense.
And so for me, that is not things I like to engage with willingly or seek them out. But I will say it was done well. Her interactions with her boss, is that Werner Herzog who played her, or that German guy? Who was he?
No, that was the older Sarsgaard, Peter Sarsgaard, I believe.
Okay. I thought his whole character as the asshole, I'm only about the money guy boss was pretty good. I liked that there were interactions with each other, especially when it comes to a head. It kind of like goes into a deeper feeling about how you feel corporate or capitalist businesses run like that really don't give a shit about your personal life, but like, well, if I had one choice to have my best man or my best friend have a wife or to have a good employee, I'd pick a good employee. Like, it's like, oh, that was really on the nose. But at the same time, like, I nodded understanding. I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty fair, albeit on the nose depiction of my perception of the man, if you will.
Business people, yeah.
Like,
also, it was Stellan Skarsgård.
There you go.
Skarsgård.
Stellan Skarsgård.
They're trying to tell you that the guy's got his face smashed in with a hovercraft. That's what they're trying to tell you.
Yep, Stellan Skarsgård.
Yep, he was taller than a tree. That was probably the most interesting takeaway I had of it. You know, for obvious reasons, I guess, because, you know, being burned on the corporate end, I can really relate with the portrayal of the company personified, you know, because they don't really care if you die, right? The people around you in your immediate like office might, you know, but like the company itself is just going to function. Oh, well, we need to hire a new person. You know what I mean? So, they get married, but we still want them to, you know, make a tagline for this new product.
Produce.
Yeah, I totally get it. So I was like,
yeah. It reminds me of that Doug Stanhope bit where he says the FDA will regulate or will legalize any drug as long as it keeps you producing.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, pretty much.
Yeah. So that was probably my favorite part, and he didn't feel too cartoony for me to just automatically hate him because I saw what they were going for. Because normally
Yeah,
one-dimensional characters really tick me off, but
yeah.
this was done
They didn't show anyone
well.
for enough time for them to be 3-dimensional, except for the main two gals.
No one was like overly loud or like
Yeah,
crazy about like their wants or their motivations. They all felt pretty
yeah,
real, minus
yeah.
like the boss a little bit,
And
but he still
also,
felt
even
real
when
enough.
people freaked out, it was nice and subtle.
Yeah.
Like the mom freaking out at the wedding, like she just didn't make a big deal out of it, but it was enough to like ruin her daughter's night. It was like she just said something out loud so people could hear it, and then like it was in response to like just like a 5-second long quip that her ex-husband made.
Yeah. Who was also a weirdo. He
Yeah,
just has like an obsession with the name Betty.
yeah, it was weird.
I have a funny story related to that. When my sister Natalie got married, it was really. This is like a classic my dad story. He was doing his toast for my sister, and like he doesn't talk about my sister at all. It says, "Oh, and I heard that Mark is having a baby." That's my brother. It's like, "Congratulations, Mark, on your baby! Yay, everybody!" Like, and that's like all he talked about the whole time during his toast. It was so embarrassing. It was so
Jesus,
bad.
dude.
So it's like, oh, classic, my fucking dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So seeing that, I'm like, yeah, I've seen parents do stupid shit. I can buy this. Like, not to the perhaps the complete destructive and I guess like malice intended way that the mom did it, because she just like really did it to spite everybody, including her daughter.
yeah,
And like she would not be happy unless she was also miserable. It's just like,
yep.
ugh. I don't like that, but I can totally understand that family dynamic and what she
Mm.
represents. And I'm glad they didn't go much further with it. Like everything hit its point to the point of being very noticeable, but not going too far for the point of where I wanted to turn off the movie per se. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Paul, what didn't work for you?
Did you notice that half the camera work was like The Office?
I wanted to fucking throw up, and everyone was
I
looking in the
hate
camera.
that, dude. I can't
Everyone just like
stand
looked right
that.
into it.
I was literally
Yeah.
expecting one of them to look at the camera and make the fucking Jim face
Yeah.
or the, David Brent face or whoever, whatever
They're gonna pull him
version
to
of
the
The Office
side.
you choose. Just choose a character. Gareth Keenan, Dwight Schrute, fucking
Yeah.
whoever else, man.
Dude,
yeah,
it was
that
appalling.
was so fucking annoying, dude. And the camera work did not do me well. Also, I don't know. This is a critique I have of Antichrist as well, but I wanted there to be more talk of depression. Because, and this is the way Lars von Trier is. I've seen a few of his movies. I've seen both of the Nymphomaniac movies. He likes to show the way stuff feels, but then never actually spend dialogue or scene space breaking down those feelings. It's almost like those feelings are enough for him. And that's fine. That's one way people live their lives. But I am a talker. I like to talk about those feelings and break them down and, hear other people's takes on them. I would have loved to hear about Kirsten Dunce's depression before they find out that the planet is coming their way. Might not have added anything to the movie, but I would have liked to have heard it.
The way I take that is everything was sped up and symbolic of a person's life. Where in the beginning we're seeing her and him very happy together before the wedding, and then just seeing the little things of what is probably like her day-to-day annoyances or thoughts, or even just like the family who she has to deal with, the people she has to deal with every day, constantly bringing her down further and further, breaking her down until she truly adopts that state of just fuck it all and then lapses into nihilism, right? The catatonic depression. That's how I saw that, as like everything sped up, where yes, this takes place in the wedding where like everything goes south and they end up leaving. But say that was shot over 10 or 20 years, the effects should be the same. All those little things, the overbearing boss, the idiots who she's around, the family, everyone just like kind of like in their own world more so, while she feels very isolated and is going further and further down that well and being dragged down by their forces. That's how I see that kind of playing out, right? And when you say that you would have wanted to see more of a conversation about depression in what led her to that, I think it was visually represented well enough. I personally disagree with wanting to hear them talk around it or about it, because that can always be done very badly. And I think for a movie to show depression as effectively as it did, that would probably detract from what we both liked about it, was a depiction of depression, right? With what could be bad writing. And I don't know if the writing was the strong point in this movie. I think the character acting itself was what stood out. So I would disagree with you.
Sure. That's, fair. You're welcome to do that. I also, actually, you know what? Because I'm so tepid about this movie, I'm going to go ahead and say that that's all that I really patently disliked about it.
What about?
Yeah, I
what
mean,
about
it was maybe a little bit
runtime?
too long. Yeah,
There
a
you
little bit
go.
too long. But and also, I didn't not like this, but I didn't understand it. I didn't understand a lot of the symbology at the outset of the movie. But I don't think that I have to understand something for it to be valid.
These out there movies are always hard to review, like The Lobster, our pilot episode, which never aired. Was the one that we just recently saw with Marlon Brando, who rapes a girl with butter.
Oh God, the fucking Last Tango in Paris.
Yeah.
What a fucking movie.
I still think about it with like I put them in the same category, Los Angeles in Paris and Melancholia, where they occupy a symbolic headspace. And while I didn't enjoy the viewing experience, at least upon reflection, it gives me a lot to think about. But God, I didn't like watching
that's a
them.
Lars von Trier movie for you. That's for sure.
Anything else you didn't like? Nothing else, man. That's really shocking.
I mean, most of it, just the camera work is the biggest one, and I've already harped on that enough. It's like this is not a Jason Bourne movie.
Yeah.
Like this type of subject matter, especially really emotionally dark, emotionally down subject matter, needs to be accompanied by really well-controlled camera work. And that's the thing, is that I feel like through what few Lars von Trier movies I've seen, he has an amazing command of emotion, but not a great command of visual language all the time.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that when we get to Antichrist, when it comes for like some of the visual symbols in Antichrist really hit you over the head like a fucking hammer. And they don't need to. It could be more subtle than that, but they're not. So, I just think maybe he needs a little bit better of a camera person to say, hey, maybe if we film this scene a little bit more tightly scripted, since we're using good fucking actors, and we controlled the camera a little bit more, maybe didn't jump cut to the same exact angle 5 seconds later, when we're doing stuff. I think he could benefit from a controlling force like that, I think, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, other than that, in the runtime and my quip about the wanting to talk about depression more, I'm pretty okay with it. What about you? What didn't work for you in this one?
The first thing I was going to say, too, my biggest pet peeve of the movie, goddamn that camera angle. It is sickening. It is
the snap zooms. The snap zooms are so infuriating.
I get he's trying to break a lot of rules with camera work in what he's doing. They break the action line a lot of times when they're doing like a shot reverse shot, or like even like change the shoulder in which someone's talking to in the same conversation, like. but it's fucking jarring. It was sickening and it was gross. But and not like maybe that's what he wanted you to feel, like to give you a physical reaction to the disgusting, perhaps feeling that Kirsten Dunst is feeling on film. You know what I mean? But dude, I did not need that. It was already depressing enough. It just made it even that much more aggravating and unenjoyable for me to watch. Because this is already a
Just Downer
movie.
City.
Yeah, like it's first of all it's Downer City. Second of all, I just want to turn it off because it looks so bad. You know, the set, the way the people look, that's fine. Blah blah blah. But God, when the camera is just like Transformers during a conversation, during a fucking
Yeah.
conversation where they're sitting over soup, you know, like what the fuck is up with that? That is unacceptable, unforgivable. Runtime, dear fucking god, it got long. I liked everything through the wedding and its establishment. Yeah, like three quarters, I should say, like depicting the depression and everyone's kind of coming to terms with the moon coming down on Hyrule. That was interesting, but then they have to give Kirsten Dunst some like a little bit of soapboxing and be all dramatic and like I see things, I know things. I all of a sudden have like a weird otherworldly quality to my knowledge that is so rooted in my depression and nihilism that allows me to see the truth of we're all gonna die. And that makes sense, again, like I said, symbolically. And in the context of the movie where everyone's gonna actually die from the moon, sure, whatever. Man, though, the delivery on those were a little weird. It just felt really jarring.
Yeah.
Thank fucking God the camera stopped moving like that, though. The second half, like, as soon as it hits chapter 2.
Much more controlled, yeah.
Jesus, it's just far better to watch. Everything has a blue tone because it's all depressed, that's fine. I get it. It was a nice little
Once again,
visual
hitting
way.
us over the head with the stuff like that.
Yeah, the misty, kind of like Scottish atmosphere of the grass and everything. Like, there you go. Fine. I normally don't go for movies that make me feel really bad or gross because, like I said,
I do. Every single time, baby.
I don't. Like, I have enough of those that I have to, like, compartmentalize and try to forget about enough during my day and my nights, Or, like, just to have to, like, tackle that on screen and be confronted with that barrage is just, like, such an unenjoyable experience for me. And it's like, oof. I wanted to reach for a drink and just kind of, like, get through it. But I didn't. But I knew that probably would have made it worse, too. But, like, God, it was just... I hate movies like these so much.
Can you give another example of a movie like this that you really hated so I can go watch
Antichrist. I'll try to think of some other ones if you really must know. But no, I don't. I hate movies like these, dude. It's just... That makes me sound shallow, I'm sure. Or like I can't confront things. Perhaps.
I'm not judging you.
No, I mean, it speaks to my character, perhaps. But no, this is just like... If I could say that the entire 2 hours of it were a negative for me, or what didn't work for me, because just like the way I felt while watching it was what didn't work for me, I'll put that up on the chopping block. Another thing that worked for me, there's a moment where Charlotte Gainsbourg, when she gets mad at Kirsten Dunst, she's just getting tired of dealing with her being depressed, At first it's like really sweet and like nurturing until like, it also wears on the people around them too. And I thought that was a really cool, clever, not even clever, a very cool, smart portrayal of of how depression affects people around depressed people, and also why perhaps it's scary for people who are depressed to want to share the depression with people. You know what I mean? Because it does kind of push people away, although they're the ones most in the best circumstances to help, or they need that kind of those people around them in the times of depression. You know what I mean? It's a vicious hedgehog cycle that I thought was that one little thing of her getting mad at Kirsten Dunst, I thought was spot on. But man, like I said, the whole 2 hours was what didn't work for me. Paul, would you recommend Melancholia, aka Majora's Mask?
No. No, probably not.
Fair
I
enough.
might watch it again at some point, though.
I don't know why you would.
I'm a glutton for movies like this where you just feel hopeless and worthless at the end. I love it. Would you recommend this one? I know the answer.
Well, no, God, no. But I wanted to talk for a second about what you just said of where you feel hopeless and worthless at the end when like the planet's coming down and crushing them all. I got a vibe of Seeking a Friend for the End of the Earth. Or, you know that movie with
I haven't
Steve
seen
Carell?
that movie. Yeah, I know
I
what it
would
is. I haven't seen it, though.
very similar in that a planet or something is coming down to destroy
Yeah.
Earth. It's almost shot for shot where they both have that moment of like, and the planet's crashing down, and there's two people together, right? And how they're
Yeah.
experiencing their annihilation in that moment, where you see Kirsten Dunce's face of like, yes, I see this is happening, and I'm kind of fine with this, and I don't really care because I don't really care about anything because of this is just my true nihilism in its ultimate form. There wasn't even like, really a tinge of caring at all in her
Yeah.
moment of annihilation. Where in Seeking the End of the Friend of the End of the Earth moment is very similar, where Steve Carell has finally found love, right? Can I spoil it? Spoilers.
Oh, I
And
don't care. I'm not going to watch it.
yeah, it's actually pretty good. I would put that on the maybe to watch list just because I kind of want to go back to it and see it again. Like, there's two movies that I want to watch again that I feel like I like more than everybody else, which is Seeking a Friend for the End of the Earth and Hot Tub Time Machine. But they're both
Oh,
at the end.
I like Hot Tub Time Machine.
I really liked Hot Tub Time Machine, but someone is like crying, like devastated at their doom, right? The end of all things, where someone else is just reacting completely differently. The kid, he's closing his eyes in this movie, Melancholia, and like he's too young to maybe understand what all this true doom means, right? And that's cool little symbolic thing. Kirsten Dunce is like completely emotionally could not be any more emotionally different than Charlotte Gainsbourg, and Steve Carell to his partner who he finds, right? I like that juxtaposition and like the intensity of kind of like zooming in on their faces and the lights changing, the sound is building, it's ramping up, and it's really getting tense, but you're just seeing this weird interplay, or at least the two looking at each other or kind of seeing each other through completely different lenses. I really like that at the end. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
But again, no, I wouldn't. I would definitely not recommend this unless you want to see Kirsten Dunce's big boobies. I mean, you're gonna earn it if you watch this movie and try to get through that just for her boobies. But
I was going to say, I don't really watch movies for boobies because those are pretty easily accessible literally everywhere you go.
Yeah, same. So
thanks to the magic of smartphones.
Smartphones and internet.
Yeah.
Boobies anywhere. Boobies on the go.
All right, let's move on then to Antichrist, which was we actually went in reverse order. Antichrist is the first movie in the Depression series. Nymphomaniac is this, Melancholia is the second, but Antichrist, I think I have a little bit more interesting shit to say about it.
Oh, please. Yeah, there's more cinematic stuff going on for sure.
Yeah. So Antichrist is a movie about a dude and a lady whose son falls to his death while they are doing it. And the emotional and relationship-related fallout that occurs as a result of that. Interesting to note before we get started, the son who falls out of the window, Eric Clapton style, let's say. Eric Clapton's kid style. And Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg are the only three people you see in this entire movie until the very last 5 seconds of the movie. So, what worked for you in this movie?
I liked the portrayal of Willem Dafoe. I like Willem Dafoe a lot. I think his voice has soothing graveliness to it, you know. You can tell right away he's being very controlling with Claire Ginsburg. Watching their interplay
She's
was very interesting. Is that yeah, Claire Ginsburg. Gainsbourg? Sorry.
Charlotte Gainsbourg.
Charlotte. Man, can't get it together. I think there's some pretty cool imagery going on
Yeah,
in this movie. In both movies, I'll bring back up Melancholia really quick, where both of them have like a really fucking long 10-minute sequence of like slow motion cam with like a bunch of weird shit going on that are symbolic to the rest of the movie that makes sense with, once you have context. Good lord, do they drag on. But there's some really cool imagery going on with that. Melancholia, one of the scenes that stands out was when whatever big booby lady and like the Tesla thing, the electricity coming out of her fingers, that looked really
yeah.
cool. In this one, the one that stood out for me was when Charlotte Gainsbourg is like walking through the green. I think it's a golf course. Am I wrong? When she's holding the baby, or am I thinking Melancholia? No, 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 no. That was Melancholia.
Melancholia had the golf course, but there
That
was
was
a pretty
yes.
extended scene of Charlotte Gainsbourg walking through the green, both in her meditation practice and after they actually arrive at the cabin.
Okay, okay. I knew I might have been confusing the two because I knew the first one definitely had the golf course, but I distinctly remember the image of the coddling the child. That was definitely Melancholia because there's a little boy. I applied it to this movie. Some of the weird dream sequence and like, oh god, like what Willem Dafoe is seeing in
Yeah.
relationship to how he's trying to help Charlotte Ginsburg process her grief and like
Hmm.
being confronted with the horror of just like that disgusting imagery of like the deer and the other deer, shall we say, the fox and
Yeah.
the other fox, shall we say. Oh man, and just watching the slow motion reaction of Willem Dafoe's kind of disgusted face is pretty top notch.
Oh yeah.
It really is visceral. It's very gross feeling. The feeling of dread you get in this movie is very palpable and very done well. Um, like it's so oppressive. Everything, like from the soundscape to just like the weird supernaturalist shit that's going on. Like it's not even supernatural in a loud and out way, where oh my god, a pig is flying in the sky kind of thing. It's just like horrifying things that you could see in nature, like the deer and the
Yeah.
deer, or he falls asleep with his hand outside the window, and then like there's a bunch of was it fungus? What the fuck was on his hand?
It was like little, I don't know, little like insecty things.
They were big. They were like the size of Skittles, or bigger. And I was like,
Yeah,
what
they
the
were
fuck was
solid
that?
size, that's for sure.
It really kind of like marches you along with feeling more and more uneasy with more so their setting than anything, right? Or perhaps what's going on in Willem Dafoe's character as he's trying to break down Charlotte Ginsburg or like force her to confront all these things. You can see it from two different sides. There's the psychologist aspect where he's actually trying to help her versus a man who's actually very domineering and really torturing this poor girl and with the best of intentions, right? Like,
Yeah.
no, you don't need medication. He's a quack. I'll help you through this. And just like trying to hug it out, when by the end it's revealed that she's someone who's truly psychotic, right? Or when he's starting to have like really fucked up dreams because of things he's seeing or having to relive as a result of her treatment, and then how it kind of gets reflected in a sidelong way back at Charlotte Ginsburg as she's kind of getting better. He might be making it worse by trying to cope with his own shit and forcing these really uncomfortable confrontations with her in order to glean truth, right? And
Yeah.
because it's always teetering between him doing something for a selfish reason while at the same time helping her, because you can still kind of categorize it as he's maybe he is. It could help her, with the psychobabble. There certainly is his explanation for it. Maybe it
Well,
is healthier.
I don't think you can really call anything that he does one thing or another, because like
It
a lot
kind
of the things
teeters.
he says to her are like patently obvious attempts to help her out. But at the same time, a lot of them are also like, if I could just get her to calm the fuck down for a few minutes, I could have some peace.
Mm-hmm. There's a moment where like he's trying to instill like what's real and what's not, or like reality versus in your head, or like, wait, no, that's impossible. That's stupid. I can't work under these conditions. Where he kind of like has his own like stupid breaking point. Like he wasn't ready to confront the ugliness that he brought out in the course of his own treatment, right? Or in the beginning, they have that whole thing like, I know it's not advisable for for your patient to be your significant other, but and she's like, well, you think you know better? It's like, in this case, and it's like, he didn't have to say anymore. It was like, yeah. So you kind of
Yeah.
see this too occupies the same place as Melancholia slash Marlon Brando fucking a girl with a stick of butter, where there's a lot of symbolism and ideas that are very important in these movies. We're trying to control or understand these parts of the psyche,
Yeah.
and at the same time comparing it to Satanism and supernatural imagery, or just things you probably shouldn't be fucking with, with the occult. Her confronting her grief and like her ideas about the demonization of like women and stuff, and how it kind of takes on a satanic role. What was otherwise normal nature stuff, the deer and the deer, the fox and the fox, take on a really sinister tone when paired with like, wait, this is Satan imagery. Wait a second. The baby had Satan legs. It's like, or like the goat legs. It's like, you never know truly where you stand in this movie, because it does take a turn, and for that, it does a good job. I've rambled on a lot about the Antichrist. Let's just leave it at that. Oh, I like the sound of the acorns falling. I thought that was really ominous and fucking
Yes, it
oppressive.
was.
The constant sound of acorns. Paul, what worked for you in
Yeah.
this movie?
This was some of the most subtle body horror I think I've ever seen.
Oh God, subtle.
I love body horror, and a lot of times, in order to make it wackier or more out there, they will just really go for it in terms of the fucked upness. But like just the drill into the leg, it was just like a little bit of blood. And then after the little bit of blood, it was him having to deal with that, and then the fact that he's dealing with that for the rest of the movie until the epilogue, was like, that was cool. That, that was a very subtle way of putting horror onto the human body. It reminded me of the scene in Misery where she breaks his legs against the wooden planks. I really liked the kind of like, I hated, but I thought it was good. It worked for me. Her combativeness. Like, she's so distraught that sometimes she just hauls off and fucking starts hitting him, and he has to like really control her movement, or else, life is going to be a pit of misery type thing. I really also thought that the music was great. I really enjoyed the music. Also, some of the imagery. This one had some shaky cam in it, but it felt a lot more controlled than Melancholia did, and I appreciated that control because it felt like they knew a little bit more what they were trying to show. Also, like, kind of the opposite of Melancholia, I liked that they tried to go into why certain fears are there, why certain depressed feelings are there. I thought I'm trying to think of a movie that I watched recently where they did this really effectively. But there's this thing, it was Eyes Wide Shut. Have you seen that movie?
No.
There's this thing that couples do, and I've been in some relationships where this has happened. It's really emotionally manipulative, but couples will do this, where they will say something benign or banal, something totally normal, and they'll take a totally normal response to that and they'll fucking just twist it and keep twisting it. And the idea is to hurt the other person. There's no purpose other than that. And when she does the thing about how, like, what if I didn't want you to leave me alone like I said I did? Like, she's like twisting every single thing he responds to her with as being like, what if that wasn't the way it was? You're just too stupid to like intuit my feelings. And like that sort of like emotional manipulation, I thought they did a great job of portraying. There's a scene that I'll try and send you from Eyes Wide Shut that is basically Nicole Kidman doing the exact same thing to Tom Cruise, where she's like, you know, saying this innocent shit and he says some innocent shit back, and she just takes it in the worst way and just fucking keeps twisting it until it's like she's obviously trying to make Tom Cruise feel like the worst fucking husband he can possibly feel like. And, you know, they did a really good job of that in this movie. I also like the contrast between the surreal kind of extra slow motion black and white prologue and epilogue and the very colorful, you know, middle 3 chapters or so. The violence all looked really good, I thought. But that's just because I don't like how clean and clear-cut a lot of movie violence is, because it's not like that if you watch people actually fight in real life. So, yeah, I would say that's all about my main points of likingness. What didn't work for you in this movie?
One thing that did work for you didn't work for me. This and the last movie had way too much slow motion. This one more so.
And it's like ultra slow-mo. It's not like 60 or 90 frames per second. It's like 200 frames per second.
It's like proper. You can see a bullet come out of a gun high speed, like
Yeah.
slow motion. And God, there's a lot of that. Like, I have very little patience normally, and that was irksome. Just seeing a lot of slow motion like that. I'm sure it's, you know, to build your discomfort and just make you sit with whatever the fuck is being shown. But like,
Yeah.
in the scene where he's looking at the deer and like the half born deer in the deer, right? They cut to Willem Dafoe's face for an abnormally long time in that shot, right? Where normally if you're trying to get a reaction, only a couple seconds, you know, just enough to see the expression and then cut back to what he's seeing, right?
Yep.
They just hold that shot, and then not a lot is actually happening with his face because it's so ultra slow mo. He might blink a little bit, or like not much happens really with like his facial expression changing because there's so much time that needs to elapse in order to maintain the continuity of that super slow motion scene occurring. Where like it's like,
Yeah.
dude, you didn't need that. You could have like just showed 2 seconds of like his like revulsion instead of like what felt like 10 seconds, right? It's like that's too long. Again, the fucking feelings in this movie, the fucking like gross feeling of just, oh god, what am I seeing? Oh man, this is oppressive. I
Yeah.
fucking, as I did with Melancholia for the 2-hour runtime of this one, I'd say it didn't work for me because I hate just that fucking feeling of dread. Like this one feels a little bit more artsy. I can get behind this one a little bit more than Melancholia because Melancholia, I was fucking bored. I was really fucking bored. Antichrist, it was more disturbing, and I was a little bit more enthralled with what was happening, right? Because there's a little bit more
Yeah, I
story
found
that's going
myself
on.
enthralled with this one for sure.
Yeah, as it kind of built to weird Satan shit, and like a little bit of like, unfortunately, what was that Spanish movie we saw where it was like, oh, and surprise, there was this we didn't tell you the whole time, you know? It had a
Oh,
little
The
bit of
Skin I Live In.
The Skin I Live In. It had a little bit like The Skin I Live In reveal stuff, but it was done way better. Where I didn't feel like, oh, and they were withholding this from the audience the whole time necessarily. Like it felt a little bit more natural in the way it progressed, and you know that was happening, but you can accept it because
Yeah.
it's not like, and I was a man the whole time with surgery, haha. Like, anyway, just the fucking the bad feeling you get watching this movie, I cannot stand. Oh my god, the fucking last half of just an hour of screaming by that woman, that fucking shrill banshee.
I have to say, I don't really
damn it.
like when people, you know, I don't like the whole like spouses or like significant others abusing each other thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when by the time in the movie that it was time for him to strangle her, I was so ready for her to fucking die, dude. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, I wanted her to die.
She had thrown a rock on his hard dick. She had drilled a hole through his leg.
God.
She had stabbed him. She had beaten him. She had screamed in his face the entire movie long. She, oh my gosh, she just needed to be done for.
She needed to be put down. I mean, once you get to the point of dropping the hard log on his log, that was a funny thing.
Yeah.
But like, man, the misery part of drilling the grinding stone into his leg, it was like, yeah, you just gotta kill her now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen Audition?
No, and I'm gonna eventually see Audition, but some of the stuff that they do in Audition I've seen in real life. Not like in real life, but like I've seen Mexican drug cartels doing that to people and stuff.
What do you mean?
I'm not sure I want to see that depicted in like a super cinematic
Wait, what do you mean by Mexican drug cartels doing an audition? Because I don't know what you mean by that.
You know some of the stuff that happens in Audition?
I've seen the movie,
like
but
some
can
of
you
the
be specific?
some of the gruesome shit.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ! I don't know. I hate the sound of just like constant screaming, constant crying. Just like it becomes so annoying. And I have that problem with not only real life, but movies too, where I feel personally accosted. It's like, you made me sit through this. Like, I get offended because like, you made me sit through all this screaming, you dick. On a plane and a baby cries.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
you can help.
You should
it's
die
like,
now
hey,
because you made
crying.
me put up with all this.
Not even the character, but like the person who put it together. It's like, you thought this was the right thing to do.
No, that's what blows me away, is that some editor had to sit in an editing bay for like months and months and months while this fucking shit was happening.
You
and
go
just
fucking
listen
crazy.
to people screaming over and over again.
Yeah. Like a baby on the plane, yeah, understandable, they can't control it, they're hurting, whatever.
Yeah.
But for you to purposefully inflict that upon me, and you thought it was a good idea, it was tasteful, man. I mean, not a lot in this movie is tasteful. You can say it pushes a lot.
I was gonna say, I don't think they intended for a movie to be tasteful where the first 30 seconds you see full dick and vag penetration.
Yeah.
But that's just me, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, like, that breaks like a artsy cultural thing, but like, to piss you off, like, I take more offense. No, I don't. I don't know. I think because while I was watching the movie, the whole thing felt bad, but stepping back from it, the screaming was so bad. It was so fucking bad. I wanted to see what was happening, but I could not. I was looking for things just to distract me. Like, no, I can't cover my ears from this because I still want to see what's happening. Right? I can't not hear this, because I won't know what's going on in the story, and that pissed me off.
Yeah,
dude, the body horror, as you had mentioned. Dude. Audition and Saw are like the two only movies that like, and I regret kind of watching Saw. You know what I mean? It's gross, and that's all the movie is.
I've seen the
like
whole Saw series.
Dude, ugh. Audition was such a weird psychological, I don't know if I want to call it masterpiece, but it was so well done that I kind of like that I saw it, but I hate that I see it and remember it. Yeah. There's like, this movie might not have the same effect, but I still had that same visceral reaction, just like when I was watching, the scissor scene and like the jacking off blood part. I was like, oh,
that was delightful.
No. Dude, were you laughing? You're the kind of person who would
I was
laugh at
laughing
that.
my ass
Yeah,
off
when
when
you
that
see,
happened,
I was
yeah.
like, when I saw that, I said, if I was totally dark and morbid, I would laugh at this. I bet
Oh my
Paul's
god,
laughing
you
right
can't not
now.
laugh at that part.
I know, I knew you were too, because I
Yeah.
understand. I understand that as a what could be funny, but Jesus
Because
fucking
the
Christ.
thing that's funny to me, okay. The thing that's funny to me about that is not that it happened. It's the
This is the
fact that
idea.
this is a part in a serious movie that's seriously morbid up to this point, and they thought that this would contribute to the seriousness of it.
Well, it contributes to the
Don't
grossing
fucking
out.
Yeah, exactly. It's a gross out tactic that didn't work because it's so outlandish. And this is coming from someone who has, and I don't care if this stays in, this is coming from someone who in high school had to stop having sex with someone so that I could go to the bathroom and pee blood. That's what kidney stones will do to you.
Oh
And
no! Oh my
it's
God.
weird, but how can you not develop a sense of humor about stuff like that when you live with it, day
Okay.
in and day out? So yeah, I'm sorry. I laughed when he ejaculated blood. Not so much the moment before when she slammed a brick onto his dick, but ejaculating blood is always a good time. Always a good time.
What you say is like a really dark and kind of a bit ugly side of us, I'd say.
Oh yeah. Well, shit happens.
Because when you see that happen to Willem Dafoe, I'm gonna edit this part out, okay? But this is just for our conversational purposes. And he's peeing blood. You laugh at that. And for others to kind of like just dip their toes in it, there's something gratifying
and they're
to the point of
devastated by
hilarity.
dipping their toes into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely laughed at that. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. I'm a
Yeah.
sick fuck.
It's okay. For other side note reasons why we were talking about later, I understand. as a cop out of a summary of what we just talked about.
No, it's okay. I mean, that's a reasonable response, I think.
Yeah.
Just being understanding. What's it that Dr. Manhattan says?
Without condoning or condemning. I understand.
Without condemning or
Condoning.
condoning, I understand.
It's one of my favorite movies to reference is The Watchmen. And in hearing all of the editing that I do, or all of our conversations and the edits that we do, we talk a lot about The Watchmen.
Well, it made an impact on us, clearly. So
Certainly did.
Is there anything else you didn't like about this movie?
Everything, but no, that I can think of, because I know we're short on time. I'll just end it at that. It's just a really, really feel bad movie. Paul, would you recommend Antichrist, starring Willem Dafoe and Shrieking Banshee?
I don't think I would recommend either of these movies to anyone, though I do feel like Antichrist has more cinematic value than Melancholia, just as a whole.
Yeah. Would you watch Antichrist again? And then conversely, would you watch either one of them before the other one? Melancholia or Antichrist?
In the way that I kind of like to do stuff like this, I think that at some point in the future, I'm going to do the Depression series in one day.
Dude, what are you doing?
I think it would be fun. I want to, because Lars von Trier is a weird guy, but he's like, he's kind of a mystery to me. He's like really made a lot of movies that have impacted people in really interesting ways. And personally, the first movie I saw of his was Nymphomaniac Parts 1 and 2. And that movie, I think, was really fantastically done, really, really devastatingly depressing.
Oh, God.
And so, like, coming out of that and seeing these two, I definitely think he reached a depressing peak when it comes to that one, the Nymphomaniac. That was way better than these two were. But I still think there is some value in all three of them in terms of dealing with depression in different ways. So, yeah, I probably will watch them again, but I wouldn't recommend them. Would you recommend this one?
No, same thing. It has a lot more cinematic qualities to it.
Yeah.
But
by the way, you're picking the movies next time, because the last few movies I picked have been fucking horribly depressing.
Oh god, this was.
I'm just trying to pick stuff that I haven't seen though, so that's why I'm doing stuff like this.
Sure. I actually, I think both in the middle of Melancholia and in the middle, or at least during the screaming, when the screaming started in this movie, irrationally, I was like, what the fuck, Paul? What the fuck did you subject me to? And I'm like, no, stand back.
Trust me, I thought that same thing a couple times.
Dude, that's
like,
fair.
What did I do to us? What did I do to us?
If you would have felt that way for me picking Last Tango in Paris, I would have totally understood too.
I do a little bit feel that way because I fucking hate rape scenes.
Yeah, we both kind of walked into these.
Have you ever seen Lone Wolf and Cub before?
Nope.
Oh, it's this series of movies from the 70s about a samurai guy. It was praised for like its accuracy to like the samurai culture. But there's a scene where the main guy, Lone Wolf, and his kid, Cub, are in this hotel with this woman, and it's the snow, and he starts like tackling her and like ripping her clothes off and shit. And the guy who I was watching it with, he and I were both like, oh shit, he's gonna fucking rape her now. I can't root for this guy anymore. Because, it was the 70s that there were, fucking Harrison Ford rapes that woman in Blade Runner. And so we were like, God damn it, this is about to be so bad. And then instead what he does is he gets them all naked and they like huddle together in the middle of the room so they can stay warm. And I was like, God, you fuck. I hate fucking rape scenes in movies, dude. I cannot do it.
That's so funny.
So that's why I can't do Last Tango in Paris. But anyways, yeah, I'm glad we watched these movies. Probably not going to watch them for a very long time, if at all.
I don't know if I'm glad I watched this movie. Like,
yeah, I don't blame
or
you. Or
these movies.
I don't know.
You. It gives me something to think about, but at the same time, I don't want to think about it.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm running from my own depression. I know I am.
That's a question for our therapists.
I should get one.
Me too, dude. Me too. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time with hopefully some happier flicks.
All right. Stay depressed, everyone.
Absolutely. Every day.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Bye.